At the close of the 7 Years' War, or which is also known as the French Indian War, Great Britain's victory came with a large debt. It was costing a lot for Britain to be able to maintain its military presence around the world and to be able to run the colonies in the new Americas. In order to pay for the large amount of debt that Great Britain had acquired over the years of the war, Parliament, which is Great Britain's Congress, decided to pass the Stamp Act in 1765. The Stamp Act was a new law that imposed a tax on American colonists, requiring them to pay a tax on all printed papers. This included legal documents, licenses, newspapers, and even playing cards. This new tax frustrated colonists since it was passed without the approval of colonist legislators. Colonists began to grumble and complain about the act, and it was later appealed a year later, but other taxes were added on and imposed instead. Some of the new acts and taxes and regulations that were imposed on colonists were that they were required to house British troops, paid taxes on all foreign goods that were brought into the country. They were also given taxes on sugar and tea and other products that came into the colonies. As more and more taxes were imposed on the colonists without their representation, protests became more and more prevalent in the colonies. In response, British troops began to occupy major cities in the colonies. On March 5th, 1770, angry colonists began to form a mob and surround British soldiers in Boston. They began to throw objects and make verbal threats at the soldiers. In response and in fear, British soldiers fired into the crowd, killing 5 people. This would be later known as the Boston Massacre. Some years later, more taxes were imposed, including a new Tea Act that was created in May of 1773. Colonists, again angered at the new imposed taxes without their representation, decided to disguise themselves as Native Americans and destroy an entire shipment of tea from the East India Trading Company in Boston Harbor. The British, in response to the Boston Tea Party, passed what was called the Intolerable Acts. These acts shut down the Boston Harbor and took away Massachusetts' rights of self-governing. These actions done by the British further frustrated the colonists, pushing them towards more drastic measures of resistance. In April of 1774, the First Continental Congress was organized in order to be able to really coordinate a mass protest in the colonies. As tensions continued to rise, a state of rebellion was lifted in Massachusetts in 1775. In that April of 1775, Britain had sent troops into Concord, Massachusetts. When they reached Lexington, they were encountered by 77 Minutemen ready for battle. The shot that was heard around the world was fired, unsure by which side, in Lexington, Massachusetts, beginning the Revolutionary War. The next year, in July of 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed by the Continental Congress, declaring independence from Great Britain, thus beginning the road to a new nation and continuing the Revolutionary War.